Compliance and AI. Transforming compliance through AI with Marcelo Erthal.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back again for another episode, and I am extremely excited today because I have Marcelo Erthal. Marcelo is the CEO at ClickCompliance, and they are doing some of the most innovative things I have seen around using AI to help drive compliance. So he graciously agreed to come on to the podcast and talk about AI compliance, his company, and what they have going on. So, with that incredibly long winded introduction, Marcelo, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thank you to having me here. And I'm passionate about technology and technology applied in compliance. So it would be like a pleasure to talk about it.
I think our listeners probably understand you are not from Texas. So, tell us where you are today.
Okay, I'm a Brazilian and I'm in Rio de Janeiro right now.
We're going to link to your website in the show notes, and I will assure our listeners that you have an English language translation.
Yeah.
They don't have to read Portuguese to be able to check out what we're going to talk about. Could we start with your professional background and what brought you to Click Compliance and this innovative use of technology in compliance?
Okay, my background is computer science. So I've graduated in Rio de Janeiro Federal University. And I graduated in a time that was the starting of the internet. So I, although I don't have a lot of gray hair, I'm too old in this area. And I've worked almost all my life in software house where I've been running this software house a long time. And 7 years ago, I and my partner decided we want to go to leave professional services in computer science because it's very tough to do this kind of job. And we look back at all the projects that we did for our clients as a software house. I saw big clients and long projects. And one area that caught my attention was compliance because there are several projects around this area that people asking me, probably in the time that Brazil, this subject was boiling here in Brazil. And all the projects looks all the same. The problems that want to solve and the challenges and everything. So we decided to productize our development and offer as a software as a service to the market. And this was the born of Click Compliance. And in that way, I moved from a professional service company to a product company. And this moving make me to I needed to dive in the compliance community to understand the challenges, to make networking. And 7 years ago, it all started from zero.
Marcelo, I have been coming to Brazil for about 10 years to talk about compliance. And 10 years ago, I would have said Brazil is about 5 years behind the United States. Now, I would say the United States may be number one, but Brazil is 1A in compliance because there's been a huge growth in the compliance community in Brazil. And I give that introduction to ask you, could you give us your view of the compliant, not simply the compliance community in Brazil, but AI's transformative aspect in compliance and the people you talk to, do they understand the power that you and Click Compliance can literally put in their hands by using innovations such as AI?
Yes, Nietzsche said a long time ago that what doesn't kill you make you stronger. For example, your guys here in US now are experiencing inflation. Inflation was like a decade ago, more time, 15 years ago. A normal state in Brazil have more than 10, 15% a month of inflation. And this kind of thing made our financial system to evolve and be a lot better than many other countries. Okay. So I think the same things happens in compliance right now. So we face very complex regulatory because our state is complex and our compliance teams are small. It's all about a one-man team. And the Brazilians embrace technology very easy. There are many networks, social networks that do experiments in Brazil because they embrace the technology. They like it. So I think we have the perfect ingredients to make different things here in compliance area. I've been following the trends in AI and what I see even in Silicon Valley that the focus are not anymore in the fundamental the LLM. Is the use of the LLM to solve the problems. And that's we are doing here. We're taking the fundamental LLMs and models and connecting them to the real problems that we face in real life. And I've launched the AI Whistleblower channel a year ago, and also in the Lackey International Summit. And there was a huge adoption of the product. So I think normally there are people that stay behind and wait to see what is going to happen. But most of the compliance officers and the Brazilian compliance community are embracing this technology and to make them more productive and to survive in this regulation forest that we have here, that live here, and also to do more with less.
You really gave a lot in that answer about Brazil's leap forward in compliance using AI. Can I maybe drill down and ask you on the launch of the AI-powered whistleblower channel, how you came up with this idea, how you move forward to develop it, and how did you execute it for Click Compliance?
Okay. 5 years ago, I saw a YouTube video from Google that was, I think the name of the product was Google Duo, something like that, 5 years ago, before OpenAI, before everything else. This video was something that blew my mind because it was AI attendant scheduling a haircut with a salon, something i- unexpected. And the funny thing is that the other side of the conversation didn't realize that was an AI agent. This blew my mind. I thought, hey, this is the whistleblower channel. I can do it for whistleblower channel. And that was, unfortunately, this was one of a lot of the projects that Google didn't make it happen, just stayed like a prototype or something like that. But the idea stayed in my mind. So there was, in the time, like 4 years ago, there was an opportunity to bring people, to bring academic people to our company, sponsored by the government. So I bring a PhD in computer science and AI, and I bring a master degree in computer science. We work like a year and a half in something like that, and didn't work at all. The best thing that I could do it was to classify the nouns. It's too little comparing my main objective. But at the same time, OpenAI was working with maybe 200 PhDs in Silicon Valley, and they bring the 3.5 version of ChatGPT. And I saw this, okay, now I have the tools to start working. And we started working like 1 year before the launching. And we faced a lot of challenges. Like, for example, Portuguese language to be understood was a lot more difficult than the English language. This was difficult to overcome, to handle the latency because we want to have a conversation that feels natural, not to say something and hear the silence in the other side. Another thing was very difficult to overcome is the what people say is the interruption handling. For example, we are talking here in a polite way that you are waiting for me, but to talk and vice versa. But in the real world, people talk over talk, and if something like that happens, the AI needs to stop talking and start listening every time the other part start talking. So these were the challenge that we face, and we start a lot of tests around it, and we decided to launch the product last year in the two main summits in Brazil in compliance. And I bring a public phone. The Brazilian public phone is very iconic because it's blue, it's big, and there is no public phones anymore in the streets. And people just remembered how it was to talk in a public phone on the streets. So it was very funny.
So, the response that you've received on this, you mentioned a little bit earlier that because of a variety of factors, financial, economic, regulatory, and others, it all sort of came together, which allowed you to start having these conversations with the compliance community about the power of AI. But how do you see the use of AI in compliance actually improving ethics and having a culture of ethics through the use of technology?
Okay. Technology is, I think, it's a great driver to spread the culture. It alone doesn't solve anything, but it can be a great driver. For example, if you have the leadership embracing the systems and the procedures, you can bring the message to places that were inaccessible before. And joined it with a small team, one person team, the AI and the technology can be a great way to spread the message quickly and all around the company, or even all around the every country the company operates. So this is technology brings the perfect companion for the compliance officer to spread his message.
You said something there I thought was incredibly important and I wanted to follow up on, and that's the role of senior leadership. It's certainly one thing for you to sit across the table from me or one of my compliance colleagues and explain to us how this can improve compliance, and we will probably, at least hopefully, understand it very quickly. But you still someone has to convince senior leadership. If you have the opportunity to sit across from a company CEO or perhaps even a board, how do you explain to them by their investing in the technology that you bring, it's going to improve culture, or do they understand it sort of very quickly?
The first thing is budget. Okay, if you look at least in Brazil, there's a very limited budget to the compliance area. So at the end of the compliance officer day, probably he didn't do everything that she should do to make the program happen. So the first thing I would say, okay, technology is cheaper than putting more people in your team. The second thing is, okay, but the culture needs to embrace the program. The company needs to embrace the program. It doesn't make any sense if you not only the top leadership there, you have not only the tone of the top, but also the middle and the immediate leadership that all from all people. So in that matter, you need to lead by example. Okay. And if your leader, the immediate leader, does the tasks that needs to do the training, read the policies, understands the policy, spread the message to use the whistleblower channel, use the system to and incentive people to use the system to answer questions about the day-to-day work, what's right or what's wrong. So so the leadership can spread the culture, and the technology can be a great way to make it happen.
Could you give us some examples of how Click Compliance is supporting companies to embed ethics and compliance literally into their daily operations?
I separate here two, three cases. We have a client, it's Banco Inter. Banco Inter is operating in three countries. It's a medium-sized digital banking in Brazil, and also is listed in the New York Stock Exchange. And they are using Click Compliance to handle all the documents all over three countries, the three different countries that they operate in English, in Spanish, and in Portuguese in Brazil. Also, they are using our module of compliance process that are automating many tasks. The same as Useminas. They build steel here. They make steel here. It's a company listed also in the Brazilian Stock Exchange, and they using the compliance process to automate the conflict of interest process. This one is one of the most complicated process for the compliance officers that we face here. And it's not easy to automate because many of the requirements don't fit in normal BPM. So there's another example. And also, we from the launch of the AI Whistleblower, we sold it for the Guarulhos Airport. Guarulhos Airport is now using our AI Whistleblower channel along with the compliance process. And if you call to the whistleblower channel of Guarulhos, probably you're going to speak with an AI agent to collect all the information for your denounce.
Marcelo, one of the things that you have said that I wholeheartedly agree with is the future is now, and particularly in compliance. And if you don't use AI, I've told people you'll be left, you and your company will be left in the dust. So could you maybe say a few words about why you think the future is now for the use of AI and other innovative technology and compliance? But maybe also, I'm starting to talk to people about what does 2030 look like? And maybe ask you, what's your vision for the next 3 to 5 years for the use of AI or other innovative technology and compliance?
I think AI is the best fit for the compliance area because most of the data that we have in compliance is unstructured data. Okay, so the for the structured data that compliance deals, there are solutions that being made in the past for to check anomalous transactions, things like that. These are well-established solution. Okay, but the majority of the data that we have in compliance is non-structured, and this the best thing, the best technology to deal and to connect non-structured that data is AI. So if you take a program, a compliance program, you can see many pillars. They are separated, not integrated. For example, we have the whistleblower channel, but how it connects to the policies? Will you have the trainings, but how it connects to the whistleblower channel again? Or if you run a conflict of interest, how you connect all together? So AI is the key for this connection and to have a more holistic view of the program. I think in 3, 4 years, probably, we are going to see the compliance teams that were small are going to be even smaller. The compliance officer, they are doing operational tests. this is going to finish. There will be no more operational tasks, at least the majority of them. So this brings another challenge because if you are starting your career and you're a junior, you start with operational tests. There will be no more room for operational tests anymore. And you're going to act more strategically to understand how things are running and to take decisions. Your role is to take decisions all the time, not only a few part of the day. So this requires more strategical people, more seniority, but also brings the opportunity to have more human to human interactions. So if you have more time in your day to day, you need to go to the field, you need to talk with the other areas, you need to bring them to the program. This is, I think, is the future of the compliance with this technology.
I have to say that I'm always intrigued to visit with someone like you with a software background because that always brings something that I'm not sure compliance officers think enough about, which is the user experience. And I have a friend that says all compliance is about the UX because if the user experience is not good, guess what? They don't use it. And for a software engineer, you live and die by the user experience. So I wanted to maybe ask you how you and Click Compliance are able to utilize the user experience to shape future enhancements of your product.
Okay, I think this is one of the greatest challenges here when we build a solution that not going to be used for one company, but hundreds and a dozen of companies. You need to do what's best for everybody, not only one company. And sometimes our clients ask us things that will make the product worse. And we need to convince them, does please don't do something like that, even in paper, because you're going to do it worse. It make worse for your life. And but on the other hand, when you see a lot of clients asking for a feature, asking for an evolution, you can capture trends. You can capture problems that you probably you, maybe you suffered the problem as a company and you didn't realize that you suffer. So when we deliver something that we realize that will be better for all of your clients, even the client that didn't ask it probably is going to take benefit because you are spreading good, how do I say, good ways to do things. And when everybody take benefit of that, you can improve everybody together.
A lot of people are concerned about ethical use of AI and what's the role of humans and are we beginning to rely on technology too much? How do you help a compliance officer think through the ethical issues that you see around the use of AI in the corporate setting?
Okay, let me give you one thing that a lot of people told us when we launched the AI whistleblower. Okay, but how you are going to handle sexual harassment or more any kind of harassment with an AI in the other side of the phone? People want to be sheltered. And if you start crying, what's going to happen? How can you handle this? And I developed something that I call it the myth of shelter. When you realize that you need to report a sexual or moral harassment, all these emotions are almost gone because you have been talking to friends, to family, to coworkers, and deciding or not to go along or not to go along with that denounce. And what you expect to to talk with AI, what you expect for a whistleblower channel is to be effective, to effectiveness, not bring you comfort. You're not looking for comfort in an attendant. You need to make sure that your denounce is going to be translated the way it is to the people that are going to decide and to handle it. Again, people are going to decide it and handle it, and it connects to your point. AI is not here, at least now, to make decisions. The decisions are going to be human decisions. But the AI is here to bring all the information that you need to take good decisions. And in this mirror, bring all the information can bring bias also. Because if you have if you have an AI that is trained with bad data, with biased data, probably is going to bring you bad information and that will lead you to bad decisions. So I think this is the most critical issue to worry now. How the model is trained, how you how it separates what's important of not important. And also any program, any computer program is prepared to is programmed to handle what it receives. And we know that there are many things that can be structured into data. The way you talk, the way you behave, the way you do nonverbal communication. And these things are important to lead a decision. So you don't need, it's wrong to rely only on the data that you have in a system to take a decisions. You need to interact, you need to understand the environment, uh, things that cultural associations, cultural behaviors that AI will never capture. So people say that one of the things that I see critical is the over automation of these things. So you can over automate things that the AI can't capture because he's going to take decisions and bring you information based in a very narrow and structured world.
Marcelo, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode. But before we leave, I wanted to ask you if our listeners wanted to connect with you, find out more information about Click Compliance or really any of the topics we've touched on today, what might be the best place or places for them to go?
Okay, we have our website, clickcompliance.com, and it's in English. You don't need to read in Portuguese there. Also, my email, marcelo.erthal at clickcompliance.com. I hope you stay in the show notes and also my LinkedIn. And I'll be very open. I love to talk of technology applied to compliance. It would be a pleasure for me.
Marcelo, thanks again for taking the time to visit with me, and I hope we can continue this conversation.
Yes. Thank you very much, Tom.
Compliance Podcast Network. Start your mornings with daily compliance news, quick, sharp updates on the top compliance and ethics stories in under 5 minutes every morning in Compliance Podcast Network. Because compliance never sleeps. Need practical advice fast? Check out Compliance Tip of the Day, one actionable idea to level up your program. Short and sweet, every day on Compliance Podcast Network. Got 10 minutes? We've got the week's top 10 stories. 10 for 10 brings you the big compliance headlines. Fast, fun, and focused. Every Saturday on Compliance Podcast Network. And don't miss the Sunday Book Review, where compliance meets culture through must-read books and big ideas every Sunday in Compliance Podcast Network. Whether you're in the office, on a walk, or commuting, stay smart, stay ethical, stay tuned. Only on the Compliance Podcast Network. Available wherever you listen to podcasts.